Alright, it's been a while. It's been a while. I've been doing a lot of work on my game. Uh, I would say about 70% of the work I've done is a whole bunch of like back end stuff that's not really easy to see the effect of. All very important, but yeah, it's if you want to know, I basically finalized my stat system. I've decided to instead of using a sort of like tree structure, I've decided to use uh, a map structure. I'm not sure how am I supposed to describe it. Like I feel like there's a word they use for it. But anyways, it's just like you have like a stat and there's like a node, and it can connect to like other stat nodes, and the connections are basically representative of conversions and gains. So like if you have a conversion from agility to strength, the connection between agility and strength, it's a direct connection, will signify, oh yeah, this stat is going to convert or gain into this stat. So I have like gain connections and conversion connections. And I know what some people might be thinking here is like, okay, if every node can connect to every node with conversions and gains, then how would you prevent cyclic, basically cycles, right? Well, like you have a node which converts to here. Let me just give you an example. Let's say you have agility that gains to strength, and then you have strength that gains to intelligence, and then you have intelligence that gains to agility, and then well, you have like a cycle there. So how would you either deal with these cycles or make sure they don't happen? I decided just to make sure they don't happen. I have not implemented things to make sure it doesn't happen yet, but this is my plan. It's just to make sure it doesn't happen. Um, I didn't want to sort of do the thing where they can happen and we'll just have like a predetermined behavior because that's very complicated when you have many stats that can all convert to each other. You'd have to basically declare the order of conversions for like all of the stat connections, which I think is probably impossible once you start getting to do like hundreds of stats. And if you don't declare like the determined order for like the conversions and gains, actually, wait, no, it's possible. It's the reason why I didn't do it wasn't that it wasn't possible or take too much time, because I just now realized that you would just have to make one list of the 100 or so, 200 or so stats, and every time you want to do some like conversions, you check to see if there's a cycle, and then you loop through the cycle, find the stat which is the earliest on the conversion list, and then do the conversions and stuff like that. Um, the reason why I didn't want to do it is because if you have a conversion list of like 200 stats, 300 stats, and you have to like go through this stat list every time, um, you want to check out like a conversion or gain, then that would be like 200 times the number of nodes in your cycle. And let's say you have like a cycle of like 5 or 6, that'll be like 1,000 or 1,400 checks. And then there might be multiple cycles in your game, um, and sometimes these checks they happen per frame. So yeah, way too inefficient, not really viable. Uh, and it, like I was saying before, if you don't have some sort of determined order here, then depending on how things go in the back end, your stats may change for whatever, like for basically no reason, right? Because it all depends on what particular order the game decided to evaluate the cycle, right? Because either you have like an infinite cycle, which just you can't, it breaks the game, or you have a cycle where you go through the cycle once and you stop as soon as you hit the start of the cycle again, right? But when you do this, depending on where you start the cycle, the stats you gain and convert in the cycle will sort of change in value. I'm not sure if I explained that correctly, but yeah. Uh, at the end of the day, I decided that I would basically manually determine what stats can convert to what stats and sort of do like a check to make sure my logic is correct in my manual sort of map, so that there's no cycles in that map. And then once I have that all figured out, I just, whenever I make an item or a passive, or maybe in a action which applies a modifier to the actor, uh, anytime the actor gets a conversion or gain, um, or anytime I make something that can give the actor a conversion or gain, I will just run through my manual check to make sure that I'm not uh, coding a gain or conversion, which will make a cycle in my game. Um, yeah. Uh, Honestly, I don't know why I talk so much about the stats and stuff. That's probably very boring. But yeah, I'll show some stuff about the game. I also did a lot of work on triggers. Basically, what's a trigger? It's like a lot of times in like Path of Exile or like AOPG games, you have things where when something happens to the actor or when the actor does something, it will cast something or some action will occur. Um, I have not created like the types of triggers which are present in Path of Exile yet, which is like cast on crit, cast on damage taken and stuff like that. But I have coded the sort of uh what is it called again? The infrastructure required to do that later on in my game. And the reason why I coded it this early is because I sort of realized that the stuff like that also has quite an amount of similarity with certain actions or certain action behaviors that you would want. For example, my skill here on my left mouse button, it's called Lightning Arrow, and I wanted this skill to create, what was it, to zap nearby enemies whenever it hit an enemy. And this is, if you think about this, basically just a trigger, right? That arrow hits something and it triggers off that hit. So it's similar to like the actor hitting something and triggering something off that hit. So yeah, I basically just coded a sort of generalized class to handle triggers. Uh, I have yet to see if this will carry over to like cast on damage and stuff like that, but I'm hoping so. But yeah. So that's basically how I did this. When the arrow hits something, it instantiates a sort of like collision box, and then it checks for actors within the collision box, and it does damage to the actors that it has chosen. There's a maximum number of actors I can choose that I can set, and right now it's set to 2 actors, so the arrow does damage to the first guy it hits, and then the lightning bounces to 2 other guys nearby, and does damage as well. On the topic of damage, with the implementation of my stat system, I've also implemented my types of damage in my game, which, as it is right now, it's fire, cold, lightning, abnormal, and physical. And it all works. Like you can have like the different resistances, even though nothing in my game so far can get resistances. The resistances do work, and you can crit and stuff in this game as well. And you have crit like the critical strike multiplier and stuff like that. If you're familiar with games like Path of Exile, it's sort of like when you crit, there's sort of a factor which determines how much that multiplies your damage, right? And Path of Exile sort of calls it like a critical strike multiplier. So that's in the game, right? All the damage types. There's lightning arrow, of course, does lightning damage, and also the lightning arrow is using um so in my game there's also like 2 different damage uh systems, I guess, for the actions slash abilities. One of them is it's sort of like a hard coded value which only changes as you level, and the other one is what was it called, a multiplier. It's basically, it's like a value which also changes with level, but it scales slower than the other action slash, how am I supposed to say it? Uh, how I describe it is that there are um flat damage actions and there are multiplier actions. And the flat damage actions, they scale with level quite well, and the multiplier actions, the multiplier does not scale as well with level. But the point of the multiplier actions is that it gives the player another way to scale the damage if they want to, other than with their level, right? Because the multiplier, what it's multiplying is the player's attack damage. And you can get attack damage with gear and stuff. So yeah, it's another way for the player to sort of build the damage up. It's present in Path of Exile, and I basically just modeled my game after that. Because I thought it was a pretty cool system. Yeah. Uh, what the hell was I talking about? Why was I talking about damage? Oh yeah. That's the damage, right, to the people in the area, and yeah, like that, yeah, and it can create and stuff. Here, I'll show you the debug. Give me a second. This is basically all the damage types. Fire, lightning, cold. I'm not even sure what the order is. I'm not even sure what the order is, but yeah, and you'll see that the arrow has done. Actually, I think I might not have changed this to do lightning damage. I think it's still doing physical damage, but whatever. Um, the main arrow does 9.35 damage to like uh the guy, right? I don't know, the enemy. And then the arcs of lightning, they do a little bit less damage because they're skilled a little bit differently. Yeah. And don't expect any more art assets for the rest of the effects I'm gonna show, because I just did this art asset for this bouncing lightning as a sort of way to familiarize myself with how I would add the art assets later, so that I could make my infrastructure support that. Yeah, so let's take a look at some other stuff. Also, for right now, I've turned off enemy aggro, because I was like, it's real pain in the ass to test things when people are chasing you in the game. Not even because they do damage to you, because you can make yourself invincible, right? But it's because sometimes you want to, like, for example, the lightning arrow, like, if it wasn't working properly, you would probably want like enemies to be grouped together, so you can see like what the lightning is bouncing to and stuff like that. And maybe you want to like make mm, them grouped together only with two of them together, or maybe like five of them together and stuff like that. And that's a lot easier to control when they're not trying to kill you. Yeah. Also, I think this is lightning arrow of swarms, and this is just yeah, the it's pretty similar to a ability in Path of Exile, where the lightning arrows, they sort of randomly move in directions, but they'll move in the direction and then pause and then start moving in the direction again, and they do bounce off walls. So you see here, they that's added into the game. Some projectiles bounce off walls, some don't. Um, let's see, lightning arrow we've already looked at. Let's take a look at earthquake. It's a very generic skill, but I think it's useful to have. So like, yeah, it just sort of does damage in areas around you, and there's 3 stages after you cast it. There's like a small stage. Honestly, I should probably increase the range of that small stage, because it doesn't look like it'll like hit basically anything. But maybe I'll keep it around. But yeah, that also just does damage in the area. And I mean Yon Dash. I mean, if you play League, you know what a Yon Dash is. I should probably change the name of this later, so I don't run any problems with that. But yeah, you get some movement speed after, and then you go back to where you came from. And then after you use it, you can use anything you want to, like that, or like I don't know, like I guess you can use like Earthquake as well. So let's do Earthquake here, right? No problem. Um, let's see here, Spark. Let's take a look at Spark here. Yeah, so this is just random movement, no pauses, does bounce off of walls. See here? Looks really cool actually. Yeah. And then this Helium Cloud, I need to still fiddle around a little bit with like the orbiting settings and stuff, because it does, I mean, it looks kind of cool, I'm gonna be honest, but yeah, it sort of has that problem with it goes out first and then it goes back in. And also when you cast it while you're moving, it does have the tendency to sort of just like stay behind you and stuff. Um, it's because this is a sort of physics-based orbit, so it's not really forced to stay at a certain distance from you. It's enforced using like sort of velocity and stuff. So when you're moving, you spawn the projectiles, but then before they have a chance to like get past you, you're already moving away from them. So then they get naturally sucked into right. They can naturally suck into the orbit behind you. But yeah. Death Blossom is this. Dragon's Wrath here. Yeah, let's replace Death Blossom here. Oh fuck, which one? It's probably this one, huh? Yeah, so this one just does damage in the area here. And after a while, it stops, like, automatically. It's like a limit of 5 seconds. Or you can, like, let go of the button prematurely, and then it'll stop, right? While you're casting it, you can't cast other stuff. You know, like, it's just how it is. Balance sort of thing. But, you know, auto attack. Oh, Seismic Slam with snaking. Here we go. This one was, honestly, it was kind of a bitch to figure out, but I think it was probably just my fault because I wasn't really thinking properly. I think it's I didn't sleep too well today, so I sort of called this in today, and yeah, not sleeping so well probably did not help. But yeah, it's you know, it just does like a zigzag damaging area. Applies 1 instance of damage to anything that gets hit by it. Points towards the mouse. Yeah. Let's see here. Oh, these are supports. I'm not sure if any of them work right now, because also, like, support skills, they need to be, like, theoretically I could make any projectile do any behavior of any other projectile in my game, but if I do it that way, then why would anyone even care how many projectile types I have in my game? Because you can just, like, make lightning arrow into lightning arrow swarms, right? Using support gems. And there's no difference at that point between lightning arrow and lightning arrow swarms. So I'll have to think about, like, what sorts of support gems I want to create and stuff. But yeah, basically none of them really work right now. Or maybe they do work, but I'm not sure. It's like uncertain, right? Anyway, speed boost. This is just something that I made while I was trying to test if I could apply modifiers to my actor correctly. It makes you go faster, and you can stack this with the Yon, so you go super fast. But yeah. Anything else here? I mean, I think that's it. Yeah. That's basically what I've been working on. Right now, making new actions, new abilities is very, very easy for me. One small problem though is you know, a couple videos back, maybe even like last video, I made a video about my inbuilt editor tool and stuff for to make the actions. Works very well, by the way. Like it works exactly how I wanted to. There's like a few small things that will change, but one sort of big problem is that sometimes it just sort of crashes my Godot, and then there's like no error message in Godot as well. Um, and I have no idea why it's crashing sometimes. I think it has something to do with, like, if I keep it open while I'm like testing out the game, it like might cause problems. But then at the same time, oh yeah, okay, yeah, it might cause problems, but I'm not sure. I'm honestly not sure. Um, but yeah, I think that's about it. I think I'm going to continue adding a whole bunch of actions and stuff. Oh, also, no items added yet. I will have to add that later. And no passives, no, like, you know, like stuff you take to augment your character when you get levels in this game. None of that is added yet. I do have plans for the passive tree, quote unquote. I'm pretty excited to implement that actually, because I think it's a sort of unique approach, and I'm not sure if it's going to be fun to play with actually, but we'll see after I implement it. And if it's not fun to play with, then I guess I'll have wasted, like, I mean, it's probably gonna be very complicated to implement, so maybe like a month of my life or something. But yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching.